Good morning. I call the session of order of revision to order and acknowledge that we are treating one territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Great River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nations Treaty 3 territory. With me this morning is Brett McIntyre and Gisela Rempel, and my name is Harvey Diamond. The Senior Assessment Department is represented by Darren Ducharme, and our administrative secretary is Jaswinder Kumar. The Zoom participants of this hearing, please note that you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it's your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along in the City of Winnipeg's Board Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once those submits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You'll then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing is concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing application revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. Administrative revision is requested, having described each application, and we will do a discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing must be sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to such matters must be sworn in. Be advised, the comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered as evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council as independent of it and the city administration. It makes a decision based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issues a written order that we mail to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed. The municipal board, if the matter pertains to assessed value or to classification, or to the Court of King's Bench, if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, we'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to address with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's estimate followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's estimate followed by any questions. And each party will give an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. Once all the evidence upon an application is brought forward, the applicant may leave. The person will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliver it in private and make its decisions. You receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. Please note that as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be formed in part of a public record. This morning we'll be hearing items 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9 on our docket today. And Mr. Kumar, you can swear in the assessor and the first applicant.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Senator, please state your full name.
Darren Charles Ducharme.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Complete it. Mr. Neupel, please state your full name.
Rocky.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda today is 243 Meriden Street. And Mr. Strong, when you're ready, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The file number is 22-3870. The roll number is 120-904-22100. The address is 243 Maryland Street. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value of $622,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C2. The land area is 12,310 square feet. And the recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $622,000. Page 2 of my brief is an aerial parcel view of the subject property on Maryland, which is situated between Portage, Broadway, and Sherbrooke. On page 3 is an aerial view of the subject, which is used as a parking lot for 705 Broadway. And on the bottom of page 3 is a Google Street View of the parking lot. Page 4 is a land valuation summary. With an area of 12,310 square feet at a rate of $50.53, we have a land value of $622,000. Below that are the land sale comparables. Comparables 1, 3, and 4 are in the same neighborhood as the subject. Comparable 2 is in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. All the comparables have the same parcel use as the subject. Comparables 1, 3, and 4 are zoned same as the subject and also have a heavy traffic influence similar to the subject. The sales per square feet range from $45.36 to $75.91, with an average of $60.09 per square foot. On page 5, it's comparable 1. This one is in the same neighborhood as the subject. You can see it in this picture. The subject is circled with the comparable highlighted in the rectangular shape. They're approximately about 500 meters apart. They have the same zoning and the same traffic influence. Comparable 1 sold March 21st, 2018 for $45.36. You can see from the picture its development potential is maybe not as great as the subject. It's about half the size of the subject at 6,151 square feet. On page 6, comparable 2 at 505 St. Mary Avenue. The pic on the left is prior to sale with the old building, and the picture on the right is the post sale with the new building. Comparable 2 is located in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject, about 1.3 kilometers from the subject. It was purchased December 9th, 2016 for $66.64 per square foot. It was purchased for the land as the old building was demolished in January 2019. The new building was completed with an effective occupancy date of April 8th, 2021. On page 7 is just the picture kind of indicating the distance between comparable 2 and the subject. The subject is in the lower left corner with the subject in the top right corner, approximately 1.3 kilometers away. Page 8 is comparable number 3, 634 Portage. It's located in the same neighborhood as the subject. It's in fact less than a kilometer from the subject, which is circled in the bottom left of the picture. Same zoning as the subject. It sold December 3rd, 2019 for $75.91 per square foot. And on page 9, it's comparable 4 at 198 Sherbrooke Street. In the same neighborhood as the subject. In fact, we can see in the picture where it is located. It is circled. It's about 500 meters, or sorry, the comparable is near the bottom in the rectangular shape and the subject is circled. It is owned the same as the subject, same parcel use as the subject, essentially the same size and shape as the subject. They're both essentially rectangular. The comparable is 12,300 square feet. The subject is 12,310 square feet. It sold February 28th, 2020 for $52.44 per square foot. And then on page 10, just a kind of map of the subject and on all the comparables that have been provided. That would conclude my presentation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Neupel, do you have any questions of the assessor?
I'm getting an echo. I don't know where it's coming from. Is anyone else getting an echo when I talk?
Your YouTube must be on, Mr. Neupel.
Oh, I don't ever watch YouTube. That's not it.
It's at your end, I believe.
Okay, well, it's sometimes, okay, I think it stopped. So maybe that's fine. Okay, to start with, you had stated that the parcel use code was vacant commercial. Is that its actual use?
That's how our department has it as quoted. It is used as a parking lot.
Parking lot. So why isn't it classed as surface parking then?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. And in this style of mass appraisal, is the determination of its use code vital to its highest and best use? in your valuation workups?
No, I don't believe so.
Then what is the highest and best use?
I guess, sorry, that's a vacant commercial.
Now, are you aware that the subject property is being held under a leasehold estate?
No, I did not. I was not aware.
And in the event that there's a legal restriction on it in the form of a lease, does that not change the complexion of the highest and best use?
I wouldn't know.
Okay. Your comparables, is it fair to say that all of them were development sales?
That they were development sale, comparable to would be. Yeah, I think that might be fair.
Okay. Now, in number one, you said that's 216 Sherbrooke, and I'm just looking at the picture on your page 5 as well. You said that it was rather small for development potential, but did you not, were you not aware that it is being developed with the neighboring property at 214 Sherbrooke?
I'm not aware that was being developed with 214.
Now, if this property were put together with 214, do you not have to consider the impact of assemblage on value?
I would say that's fair.
But in this case, of course, there was no adjustment for assemblage or anything. In effect, it was just presented as a single sale, correct?
Correct.
Number two, just confirm that this is not in the suburban zoning, that this is in downtown zoning, correct?
Yes, I agree.
And the development that's on there, do you know how many stories it is?
It is 15, I believe.
And are 15-story developments permitted in the subject zoning?
I'm not aware.
Number three, were you aware that it was as part of the sale process getting a variance for a denser development?
I'm not aware.
So for development sales, as earlier answered, I'm specifically multifamily, which these all became. Would you agree that the value of the property is not so much the square footage, but the amount of units you can put on it?
I think that would be fair, yeah.
Okay. And your last sale, were you aware that there was a variance on it to allow much smaller setbacks from the neighboring properties?
No, I was not aware.
And so if in comparison to the subject, you had a piece of land that had more space that you could actually use, should that be an impact on value?
I think that'd be fair.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ripple, do you have any questions for the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre, do you have any questions?
I just have one on page 1 of your brief. This class code is 40 institutional, school tax exempt or vacant commercial.
Sorry, on page 1.
Page 1, property description. Where it's got 2023 roll year and then the value, and then it's got a classification, class code 40, institutional.
Right at the top.
The school tax exempt.
Oh, okay. I haven't noticed. Well, this it certainly has a parking lot for 9 Circles Community Health Centers. I guess.
Well, that perhaps can be the answer.
And that's located at 705 Broadway.
Okay, no, that was my only question. Thank you.
So would a health center qualify as a school tax exemption, or would it be a
It
health
would appear so.
exemption?
Sorry,
Or would it be a healthcare exemption?
it appears to be a school.
Okay,
exemption.
so there's a school there then on the use of property.
I guess. Like, I don't know, I don't know if they qualify or not, or if they don't, but maybe they do, I don't know.
Anyway, I guess it doesn't be influence us because we have to determine the assessment and what's taxable will be another matter anyway. So, thank you. Okay, that's concludes our questioning, Mr. Eva. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Now I did work on some rebuttal this morning and I filed it and I know you're going to give me a chance to discuss it later, but not all of it is pertinent. It was just kind of my random thoughts put together. So whatever is pertinent, of course, I'll go over as rebuttal. But our main brief, page 1 is the subject property, and the building immediately south of it is 705 Broadway. Both of these properties are held under the same head lease, and the subject here is called the parking lands in the lease. So it is provided as part of a rent to the user. They are a healthcare provider, and being a not-for-profit healthcare provider, they receive an exemption from school taxes. And they're also, the head lease is now to the WRHA. The original lease was actually directly from a landlord to an end user, and then a few years ago, the WRHA put their name on the head lease because because the funding comes from WRHA, obviously, and that's what they do. So there's no issue there on the classification. This is a part of the lease, and it's required for the property, so it has the same exemption status. It is separated by a back lane from the main building, and there's, like I said, there's pictures on page 2. In looking at the value of this, we are tried to get these properties heard together as one economic unit. So the 705 Broadway was heard on November 3rd, and I don't have the results of that hearing. The bottom line is that there is, whatever the sum value of these two, if they work with the earnings that are coming off the property, that's how these should be resolved. And for the last, I guess, 4 or 5 sets of appeal cycles, we've struggled with that. I don't know what the result of that other hearing was. So what I'm going to do is just proceed with what we've presented here. And I guess we'll have to look at the results afterwards and see if we're satisfied, or, we then have to deal with the municipal board to have them heard together and through whatever process they have. So it's a bit of a, we really don't know where the other one went. So in and by itself, we had a number of sales on page 2, and these are all C2 zoned, similar locational qualities as the subject. The first one we put in was 198 Sherbrooke, and the person who did this wasn't aware of the variance issue with 198 Sherbrooke, in that their land actually has greater utility than 243 Maryland, and some adjustment is required for that. But fortunately, we didn't put the greatest weight on it. We just looked at the mean, and I think that was rather fair. And with $29.69 a square foot, the property is not a development property. It is held under contract, leasehold estate, surface parking. The highest and best use is accessory surface parking, and as a result, the valuation should be not as vacant land, but as that highest and best use. And the primary uses are listed, and the bulk zoning are listed in page 5. The setbacks for C2, rear yard 25 feet, maximum height of building, I did bring that up earlier, 49 feet. And there's an equivalency for C2, and that's RMFM. That's page 5, about 2/3 of the way down. So it's an automatic equivalency. If it were possible to develop the land, which would mean breaking the contract, of course. There is a conversion to RMFM, and I'm sorry I didn't put the RMFM bulk standards in here, but they are 800 square feet per unit of land. So in this case, if it were possible to develop, the 12,310 is just a math, divide that by 800, and you are allowed 15 units on this site. So regardless of the height, it's 15 units. And in my rebuttal information, I'm just going to compare and contrast that to what the other properties had obtained and on that value. So as for now, this is, as I said, it's a bit of a moving issue, but we're requesting 365,000. And just a last note on that, over the years, we have done the balancing act with this. Some years this the assessment is high on the lot and low on the building, and some years it's vice versa. So previous years' assessments really mean nothing. They're just the sum is what matters. That's my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Sharm, any questions of the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one, I guess. I noticed in regards to your comparables on page 2, we had chosen the same one at 198 Sherbrooke. This one, would you agree that this one, in comparison to your other comparables, would be most similar to the subject? There's a proximity and size. The others are quite similar.
Superficially, it is. But then when I was doing my research this morning and preparing the rebuttal, I discovered the variances. So it does have permission for a denser style of development than the subject does. And, you know, you can't just assume everybody gets a variance. You got to, you know, and until you do, it's unproven. So no, there's legal, permissibility differences between the two. And it should be adjusted for that. On 198, that is.
That's all I have for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Rebel, do you have any questions?
No, thank you very much.
And I don't either. So, Mr. Neufeld, if you have some rebuttal, you can present it now.
Yes, I believe that the board's got that.
Mr. Chair, I have to print one copy for the assessment.
That's fine. So we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Yes,
right now?
please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, we all have your rebuttal information before us. You can go ahead.
Thank you. And like I said, there is some stuff in there that could probably be considered new evidence. So don't worry, I'm not going to touch it. First page is the sale at 216 Sherbrooke. This is a printout from Sabre. There were actually 2 sales, one that the assessor reported in 2018 and another in 2019, which was a sworn value. What's important here is that this was an assemblage sale along with 214. The same developer purchased both to make his project. And as an assemblage sale, it's not something that you can just take and compare to another property without knowing the nature of the sale. Most cases, assemblage sales are never used because the amount of the ability to adjust those sales is extremely difficult and requires too much. You know, you have to look at the parcel as a whole and then look at what they paid for the first one and confer with all the participants. So it's essentially not something that should be relied on. The second page shows the picture of the development that is being contemplated, and that it's clearly, it says that it is commercial ground floor, 3 floors of apartments, and it's on, I can barely read that. It's based on 2 shuttered retail properties, 214, sorry, 216 and 218. And the picture below is from the assessment department that shows those two properties. The one was marked 346, the other 316. And incidentally, below it is 198 Sherbrooke marked at 595. The next one on page 3 is the 505 St. Mary, which is now called 290 Colony. This is the Perth's operation, and this is in downtown zoning. And the density is much higher. It's actually, there is no real density on downtown, and it has different rules, and apartment buildings or land is purchased on the amount of units you can put in it, not the square feet. That's the story with all of these properties. They're not being, you don't judge them by their area, you judge them by their permissible density. Now, in this case, if you note that the sale that the assessor had pointed out to us was, sorry, I just want to have it in front of me here, was 15,000 square feet. And now the development on it, as reported by the this is the university's workup. The University of Winnipeg's workup is 108 units. So what we have there is a density of 138 square feet per unit. Remember that C2 zoning is 800 square feet. So in other words, they have a density that's almost 6 times greater than the subject. And the value comes from the number of units. It's, you know, in this case, the sale was for 108 units was at $1 million. So it's roughly $9,000 a unit. Using the same math and applying it to the subject, which is the way you would do it, comes to a value of 135,000. So as a multifamily project, when you're comparing with the appropriate unit of measurement, that's what this one comes up with. The next property was 634 Portage, and again, this was another multifamily sale that was based on development approval. The sale is listed on page 5, and on page 6, this is my communication to the assessment department when we had the classification changed. It was McNaught's building, and we had it changed to residential on the basis of the development approval. And my words back in 2019 were, no point in chasing the sale because it's a convoluted ownership finance acquisition scheme, and it doesn't meet the standards of market value. The workup on it, and this was on page 7, was the presentation to community committee, and this was what was approved. 109 units on this land. So 109 units on 34,000 square feet is 320 square feet per unit. Again, this is 30%, 1/3, no, sorry, the 8 is 2.5 times greater than the subject's permissible density. When one takes the sale 2650 divided by the 108 units, that's 24,000 a unit. Applied to the subject would be a value of 368,000 with the same density. Again, that is the unit of measurement in multifamily. And of course, below page 8 is community committee's agreement with the recommendation. And before anyone starts getting excited about post-reference, this is the approval date. This is what was asked for prior to the sale. This is what the sale was based on, and an approval that happened later. the interesting write-up on page 9 from the prior committee was discussion of this site being on a major corridor and Portage Avenue, which was one of the reasons for supporting it. Now, whether or not they would support the same development on Maryland is not the issue. They haven't done anything. No one's asked for anything. You can only value on what has been done, not on what you think can happen. 198 Sherbrooke is the next property, and there again you see the sales. And there's always this shows the history of sales of the property. So, you know, in 2002 it sold for $20,000, but that's not our issue today. We have a sale, and prior to the sale, there were variances, and on page 11, this was the 2015 variance, which was a prior attempt, and you can see that the front yard was reduced to 9 feet, and the actual front yards on this zoning are 25 feet. No, 0 feet. I'm just reading the other thing here. A north side yard of 5 feet versus side yards are C2. Oh, this wasn't C2 zoning originally. Actually, there's an issue there, but the rear yard of 9 feet versus the 25, which was normally in C2. So they had larger amounts of land, and this was to accommodate the commercial application rather than the multifamily. Then this allowed them to do more commercial rather than deal with the commercial setbacks. Later on in January 7th, 2021, on page 12, they also changed the area, the density to 439 square feet, which means that they were permitted their units based on their lot size at 439 square feet, which would mean that they could do 28 units on the site. And this is almost twice as much as what is permitted for the subject on its site. So that, you know, so that's 23,000 per unit, again applied to the subject, and it puts a value of 345,000 on the site for a permissible unit. The value of land isn't the dirt, it's the rights, always the rights. So when somebody has established and obtained superior development rights, that speaks to the value. That's not a semantic issue, that is not an argument, that is just fact. That's why developers make money when they repurpose and rezone lands. The subject is what it is and has to be valued on the basis of what it is. I think this was covered in earlier, but this is just a copy of the lease that shows that they're held under lease. I did ask the assessor a question about if he knew it was under lease, and page 16, for example, shows the parcels that are together on the same lease, and page 15 has a clause that says tenants parking as part of the lease. So it's bound by this lease, and this is the first lease with Regional Health Authority in '99, and it's been extended and renewed, same terms, same conditions. The next pages 17, 18, 19, and 20 are not something where as rebuttal nor primary evidence. It was just what I was telling you earlier, that this is the value of the entire economic unit. And the pictures regarding the parking on it would probably be considered primary evidence, so I'll just skip past them. And as well as the information on working at home during COVID, which is most of the remainder of this report. and as well as the last section, which starts page 58, which is downtown biz and their report on the impact of COVID on downtown. So that is my rebuttal.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Sharp?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Ripple, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Mecca, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess a couple of questions. First of all, you indicated, and you showed us a lease, but I was under the impression when you were questioning earlier that what you had here was a leasehold title, not a freehold title. But in fact, it's a freehold title, which is subject to a lease like a lot of properties in Winnipeg, correct?
Yeah,
We're not
yes.
doing a leasehold title here. We're doing a freehold title, right?
What I was saying is that there's a leasehold estate interest here, which is on the title.
No, I understand. So it's not on the title. The title is a freehold title. The property
No,
was sold. You showed us the property was sold. It was a fee sale. If you look at your initial document that you have.
The leasehold estate is registered on the title as an interest in the title.
Okay, so they registered the caveat against the freehold title to show if they have a lease. That's not uncommon. Okay, I thought what you were referring to when you initially talked was that there's a leasehold title here, not a freehold title.
No,
So we got that clear now. That's fine. You answered the question. And the fact is that you also showed 198 Sherbrooke. There were variances given that if this property, the subject order doesn't have, correct?
198 Sherbrooke had variances given that the subject does not have. Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
But would you agree that the fact that the city or the planning commission gave those variances to a property similarly situated as a precedent that the same would be available for the same property if it was applied for?
No, every property is going to be treated differently, and that's a common argument that they'll use at Board of Adjustment when they still had a Board of Adjustment. The fact of the matter is that the subject property is located in a different style of neighborhood, being north of Broadway, between Broadway and Portage. So if you were looking for another use, some sort of a similar approvals granted, you would probably have to look at that style of usage where it is. Now, the problems with it are going to be, the resistance will come from the fact that there's this Tim Hortons drive through that goes right behind it. And would they allow setbacks to happen and occur when there's this driving lane that's there? Those are just no automatic assumptions. But the conformity is yes, it is a fact. And then it would also depend on the type of development that was planned. Some would get it if it's the ones that you were looking at, which is a predominantly multifamily use in a multifamily neighborhood. That's conformity.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. you've answered my question. Thank you. Okay, so that's the questions, I guess, on your rebuttal. I'm going to ask Mr. Sherman if he wants to make a final summation. Okay, Mr. Neufeld, you could have the same opportunity that Mr. Descharnes declined if he wishes to do so.
Yes. Again, just going back to the main issue here is that this is a parking lot, not an apartment development site. And when these comparisons are brought forward and the sales are based on the number of units that can be put on the site, the subject right now is at 800 square feet per unit. No variances. We can't dream or suppose anything's going to happen until it gets approved, if it gets asked for. When that happens, go ahead, assess it at that value. But we're talking about a legal right that has not been granted. We do not speculate that it will be granted. It never is assumed. The comparables range from 120 square feet per unit to 438 per unit. So they have an average of 3-4 times the density permissible uses than the subject. It's about property rights, and the general comment on this whole thing is whether it's whatever one wants to consider as this type of title, there is a legal restriction that has to be dealt with before anyone can dream about repurposing it. When it happens, maybe you want to consider a difference in value, difference in highest best use, but that's not what it is today. You can't dream of a different use. It must be dealt with as it is, the legal rights that are in place now. The purpose that the Municipal Assessment Act does not speak to a fee simple, it speaks to the market value. And in our market, an impacted site, because there's a lease in place, is a legal and financial impediment to future development. You got to buy it out. So that's going to impact the market value. The last thing I want to say is just a general comment. The Manitoba Municipal Assessment Act, the legislators in their wisdom determined we would have 2-year cycles. 1 year is extended to 3. But the purpose of that is to capture market changes. It is not to even things out. It is not to have a progression. It's because there are good market years and there are bad market years. The reference years prior to April 1st, 2021 were bad. They were bad for office, they were bad for parking. And the values go down. And then afterwards, the next year, they'll recover and they go back up. And I think it's a particular source of frustration.
Okay, you're moving something up right now. I think you're giving new evidence, Mr. Neufeld. I think I asked you to do a summation, which I think you've probably carried through. But no, you're giving us new evidence right now. And that's not what this is all about.
I'm not. Evidence would be if I gave you facts that you didn't know.
But your arguments, you're sworn in, and everything you tell us is something that you want us to consider. So if you want us to consider it, it's evidence as far as I'm concerned. And you've had your opportunity to give the evidence. Right now, I asked you to do a summation. If you want to do so, I think you've done that. If you have anything else in the form of summation, I'll let you go ahead. Otherwise, I don't want to hear new information from you that you didn't already give us.
I think when something's in the public domain, I can repeat what everybody knows. And there's no doubt that there was a major impact due to COVID. And values go up, values go down. This is common sense. Right now, values are down. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll consider your application. You'll hear from us. Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. And I think it's your only matter on the docket today. So good morning.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're next doing with, sorry? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Good. Yeah. Please state your full name.
Sarah Cates.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please say.
Okay, next item on the docket is the property that has no address on Main Street. I guess that's file 22-1920. And Mr. Shannon, when you're ready, you can go forward.
Thank you. So the roll number for that file is 140-601-380-00. It's on Main Street for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $146,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C2. The land area is 6,340 square feet. The recommendation is to maintain the assessed value of $146,000. Page 2 is overhead parcel view of the subject, located on Main between Bannerman and Cathedral. On page 3, an aerial view of the subject. It's a lot with the 2 large containers on it and the top picture. And then a Google Street view, we see the containers on that lot from the bottom. On page 4, there's no recent sales history for this subject. The land valuation summary, the area is 6,340 square feet at a rate of $23.03, giving a land value of 146,000 square feet. Below that's the comparables. All the comparables are on the same street, Main Street. Comparable 4 is located in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. Comparables 1 and 2 are located in the same region as the subject. All comparables are zoned the same as subject C2. All comparables have the same land influence of heavy traffic. The comparable sale price per square foot ranges from $21.69 square feet to $41.26 per square foot. Top of page 5 is comparable 1, 984 Main Street. This one's located in the same region as the subject, approximately 1.7 kilometers from the subject. It has the same zoning as the subject. It's sold October 16th, 2018 for $21.69 per square foot. Page 6, comparable 2, 895 Main Street. This one's located about 2.2 kilometers from the subject in the same region on the same street and is zoned the same. It's similar in both shape and size. Its size is 5,939 square feet to the subject, which is 6,340 square feet. It sold May 30th, 2019 for $23.57 per square foot. The width or the frontage of this lot is very similar to the subject. This comparable lot width is 38 feet wide. The subject is 40.5 feet wide. Comparable number 3, 2470 Main Street. This one's located about 4.4 kilometers away from the subject. It has the same zoning as the subject, the same heavy traffic influence as subject. It's sold May 14th, 2013 for $23.15 per square foot. Page 8 is comparable 4, 1731 Main Street. This one's located approximately 1.3 kilometers away from the subject in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject, same zoning and heavy traffic influence as the subject. It's sold July 10th, 2018 for $41.26 per square foot. It has a similar shape as the subject, though the width of the lot is not as favorable as the subject. The width of the lot of this comparable is 26 feet wide. The subject is 40 and around 40 feet wide. Page 9 is comparable 5 on 24. It's 2480 Main Street. It's located approximately 4.3 kilometers from the subject on the same street. Has the same zoning, same heavy traffic influence as subject. It sold December 23rd, 2019 for $37.47 per square foot. Below that is just a map of the subject and all the comparables. And that would conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Kagi, if you have any questions of the assessor, you can ask them.
Okay, thank you. So for your comparables on page 4, looking at comp 2 at 895 Main Street, are you aware if this was a motivated sale?
I was not aware comp 2 was a motivated sale.
So looking at comps 3 and 5, they're both in Riverbend. Would you agree that Riverbend is a superior location to the subject's neighborhood?
I would have to agree.
Okay. And these comps are also a fair amount larger than the subject. Would you agree that these larger lots would be deemed to have more development potential than the subject?
Yes, I would agree.
So would you then agree that vacant land located in superior location with greater development potential would sell at a higher rate per square foot?
Yes.
Okay. And then just looking at comparable 4, which is in Seven Oaks, I know you commented that it's an adjacent neighborhood to the subject, but would you agree that on Main Street prior to hitting Jefferson is a bit of a different feel than Main Street, say, past Inkster?
I would tend to agree, yes.
Okay, thank you. That would conclude my questions.
Mr. McIntyre, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Rebel, do you have any questions?
Yes, I'm just wondering if, what you think is the best comparable to the existing, property that we're hearing about today? If you have.
If I have one, I would probably say it'd be comparable. I'm thinking two, it's similar in size to the subject. Similar shape to the subject. Similar size, yeah. Fairly recent sale.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't have any questions. So you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So if you turn to page 2 of my brief, we have a summary of some of the key facts about the parcel, along with our requested assessment, which is $108,000. So then if you skip ahead to page 6, and I'll just give a moment. So page 6 is the start of our maps of the subject property. So we have an aerial view showing its location. So on Main Street between Bannerman and Cathedral. And then if you go to page 7, it's also another kind of overhead view, but just a different perspective, kind of showing more of the intersecting streets. And page 8, we have a street view of the subject parcel. So if you turn to page 9, we have our property description. So the subject property is rectangular shaped. It is a vacant land parcel located on Main Street in the Luxton area of Winnipeg. The site size is 6,340 square feet and is zone C2. It includes site influences of bus route and heavy traffic. This subject property has remained undeveloped as vacant land for many years, and there are currently no development plans in place for the subject property. So if I can ask everyone to go to page 14, this will be our chart of our comparisons. So on page 14, I have the subject information highlighted in yellow at the top and then the comparables underneath. So essentially toward the left-hand side of the comparable sheet, you kind of have the indicators of where it is. So roll number, market region, neighborhood. As you move toward the middle of the chart, it's the sale information. And then toward the right-hand side of the chart, we have the zoning and site influences. Now, just for the site influences, I just wanted to make a note. The ones that just show medium, that's supposed to say medium traffic. It just got cut off. So I just wanted to make that correction. So essentially, when we're looking for comparables, looking in similar areas, similar small sized parcels, and we were also able to locate the same zoning. And once we filtered out for kind of like the low value outlier sales, this is the sales chart that we came up with. So it shows a median of around 1650 a square foot. Now, if you could turn to page 15, this is the start of the indexes of the different comparables that we have. So index 1 at 984 Main Street, the assessor and I both used this comparable. Now, what I would say with this comparable is I would consider it a bit superior to the subject parcel. It has more frontage onto Main Street, and it also has, being a corner lot, has visibility from another street as well. This property has also remained undeveloped for many years, since at least 2007, and there are no development plans noted under DMIS for this comparable. If you turn to page 16, we have our second comparable at 220 Selkirk. So this is located on Selkirk Avenue between its intersections with Main and King. This property has also been undeveloped since at least 2009, and there are no current development plans in place for the property. Page 17, index number 3, 486 Selkirk. So this property is located on Selkirk Avenue near its intersection with Andrew Street. The property has been undeveloped since at least 2020, and there are no current development plans for the property. And finally, on page 18, index number 4, 651 Selkirk Avenue. This is on Selkirk Avenue between its intersections with Mackenzie and McGregor. It's been undeveloped since at least 2015 and no current development plans noted on DMIS. So if you turn to page 19, this is just a brief summary. So the current assessment is 2303 a square foot. And I would request that based on the comparables that the revised assessment be no more than $17 a square foot. Page 20 is the start of the appendix. So essentially, page 21, I just have the first photo is just a rear view shot of the subject property. And then the image below that is kind of just a wider shot from the front showing the street view. So kind of seeing that the surrounding buildings are fairly dated. And then finally, page 22 is just a Google map view. So since the comps are from some different neighborhoods, essentially just showing the proximity of those neighborhoods to the Lexington neighborhood that the subject is in. That would conclude my main presentation, and then I also do have some rebuttal.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Shine, many questions?
Yes, thank you. One question, in regards to your comparables on page 14. Would you agree that the comparables on Selkirk would be inferior to the subject in terms of the development potential with the smaller lot sizes and location in comparison to this subject?
I would agree that Selkirk may be slightly inferior to Main Street, but when we're looking at this portion of Main Street, they're not extremely far off. They are still fairly similar neighborhoods. And in terms of the smaller lots of the comparables, something that like the subject that's 6,300 square feet, in my opinion, is not going to have a ton more development potential than something that's 3,500 square feet. They're all in the class of being like quite small lots.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Rambo, any questions?
I'm just wondering if you took these photos of the said property, the ones on page 21.
I didn't take those photos. Those are from Street View, just given kind of the traffic. Sometimes on Main Street, it's hard to snap good photos. So I've utilized Street View for those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't have any further questions, so thank you. You said you have some rebuttal?
I do have some rebuttal submitted.
It's in the folders, sure.
Thank you. Rebuttal?
Okay, thank you. So page 1 of the rebuttal is speaking to comparable 2 of 895 Main Street. So comparable 2 was previously used as a vehicle service related property and the improvements were subsequently demolished. So following the 2019 sale, we see that the registered owner for 895 Main, which is the comp, and the adjacent property at 907 Main Street, which is Corbin Funeral Chapel, were shown as the same registered owner as Parkland Funeral Holdings. So the property appears to be used to support the operations of the main holding at the funeral chapel. So on page 2, I've included a snapshot from the Corbin website showing the need for more parking based on how many seats their chapel can hold. And when you look at the overhead image on page 1, showing the parking that they had as part of their own parcel, it wouldn't have been sufficient to meet those requirements. And further, considering the parking restrictions on Main Street, given like diamond lanes, speaks to the need for more parking. So page 3, what I've included is the tax bill from the comp at 895 Main, the year after its sale, showing the new registered owner. So that's in the top left corner. And then on the bottom left, on the second image, it shows the registered owner's address. And then on page 4, what I've included is the tax bill the year of sale of the funeral chapel, so 907 Main, showing the same Parkland Funeral Holdings and the same registered owner address on the bottom of that page. If you turn to page 5, this is speaking to comparable 4 at 1731 Main Street. So this comparable was purchased with the intent of development a few months after purchase. So in November 2018, we see that a variance was sought and achieved to allow for the construction of a mixed-use building. So on page 6, I've just included a snapshot of that first page of the DIMIS minutes showing the variance approval. And then page 7, I've just shown a snapshot of what the plan development was. So in terms of this comp, this is unlike the subject. The subject and the comps that I've chose have been undeveloped and have no plans for development. This one was purchased with the intent of imminent development. And then page 8, this is speaking to comps 3 and 5. So that's 2470 and 2480 Main Street. So I've included an overhead view along with a street view shot. So 2470 Main has a development on it now, and 2480 Main is still vacant. So in terms of Riverbend, this is a superior neighborhood to the subject's neighborhood, as we mentioned. And additionally, Riverbend has experienced a fair amount of recent development activity compared to the subject's neighborhood, which has more like dated builds. So if you turn to page 9, I've just included the census data, the most recent census data I could get for the neighborhood, showing the household income in the subject's neighborhood is below the city's averages and medians. And then if you turn to page 10 for the Riverbend area of the comps, you can see the household income is well above the city's averages and medians. Then lastly, on page 11, this is essentially this first picture of the apartments is right across the street from the comparables. And the second picture of the retail strip is on like very close on the same part of Main Street to the subject. So just kind of showing the differences in development activity in Riverbend. So that would conclude my rebuttal presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Sharp, do you have any questions on the rebuttal?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Ms. Magner, do you have any questions?
I just have one question. How does the census data help the board in coming to a conclusion on this property? How relevant is it on a specific property?
Sure. I just included it to show that the area is not necessarily comparable, but use it as much as you feel is relevant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm just wondering, when we saw the shots of the property, there are 2 storage units that exist on the property. Do those storage units belong to the owner?
They do.
Is the purpose of the property storage for the owner?
The owner, when I spoke to the owner about what they're doing with the property, they have no plans for the development, but they do have their storage containers on there.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
And I still don't have any questions. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to agenda item number 3. File number 223007, and when you're ready, Mr. Ducharme.
Thank you. The roll number is 075-691-37265. The address is it's on St. Matthews Avenue. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $877,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C3. The land area is 52,198 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $877,000. Page 2 is an aerial photo of the subject. It's located between St. James Street, Century, and Ellis. On page 3, we have an aerial view of the subject. It's sort of an oddly shaped parcel. I guess you could say almost like triangular in shape. And on the bottom of page 3 is a Google Street View of the subject property. There's internal sales history for this subject. The land valuation summary with an area of 52,198 square feet at a rate of $16.80. The land value is $877,000. Below that are the land sale comparables. It was difficult to find comparables in the zoning type and lot size. Comparables 1, 2, 4 are located in the same neighborhood as the subject. So, comparable 3 is located in an adjacent neighborhood to the comparable. And the sale prices of the comparables range from $27.82 per square foot to $43.96 per square foot. Top of page 5, comparable 1, 765 King Edward Street. My apologies, this did not include a picture of the property at the time of sale. The property sold July 2017 with the building, which was demolished in October of that same year, 2017. So the property was purchased for the land as the building was demolished. This picture is a more representative picture of how it looks today. There are no permits currently issued. It's located about 2 kilometers from the subject. It sold July 31st, 2017 for $37.19. Top of page 6, comparable 2, 800 Berry Street. This roll no longer does exist. This is now used for parking for Victoria Inn. We see the prior to the sale with the building. It sold December 19th, 2012 for $27.82 per square foot. It was purchased for the land. The building was demolished sometime between 2012 and 2014. And on the bottom of page 6, as a post sale with the building removed. On page 7, 1721 Portage Avenue, comparable 3. This one's located about 1.6 kilometers away from the subject. It's located in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject, and it sold July 7th, 2016 for $43.96. On page 8, comparable 4, 555 Madison Street. It's very close to the subject. It was purchased April 2012 with a building, the picture on the left at the top, but it was purchased for the land. The building was demolished effective July 1st, 2014. And then below that's the post sale with the new development. The occupancy of the new structure was approved effective October 12th, 2016. And on page 9 is the comparable map of the subject and comparables. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
If you have any questions, Kate, you can ask them now.
Thank you. So if we could turn to your page 3,
Yes.
would you agree that the subject property is irregularly shaped?
Yes.
And would you agree that the configuration of the lot, specifically like the narrowness towards the top of the parcel, could limit the development potential compared to a standard rectangular lot?
Potentially, yes.
And would you agree that the subject also has no sewer and no water services?
Yes.
Okay. So if we could turn to your page 4 with the comparables. Are you aware if the sales shown here were all serviced at the time of sale?
Yes.
And would you agree that service land would command a higher price per square foot than unserviced land?
I would agree, yes.
So looking at comp 1, 765 King Edward Street, would you agree that this lot has a fairly standard configuration and is not irregularly shaped like the subject?
Agree.
Looking at comp 2, 800 Berry, are you aware if this was a motivated sale?
Not aware it was motivated sale.
And then looking at comps 3 and 4, so that's 1721 Portage and 555 Madison, would you agree that both of these comps are on main thoroughfares or major streets that experience heavy traffic?
Yes. Particularly Portage, yes.
And would you agree they also have significant exposure and visibility on those streets?
I agree, yeah.
So would you agree that these features would then be more conducive to a commercial development than the subject property?
Yes, it would be more conducive, yes.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my questions.
Ms. Rimble, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
I have no questions, thank you.
I guess my question is, so this land that we're dealing with today is unserviced. So you don't really have any comparables for unserviced land in the city.
Just the size of the subject, yeah, I didn't find any,
If any,
and the odd shape of it.
yeah, if any development was done other than a surface parking lot, you agree that services would have to be brought in at
Yes.
a significant cost. We don't know what that cost is, but maybe you'd agree with that though, right? Okay, thank you. Okay. See.
Thank you. So if you turn to page 2 of my brief, we have the summary of the facts of the property, as well as our requested assessment of $626,000. And if you skip ahead to page 6, we have an aerial view of the subject property. I couldn't quite get the aerial mapping tool to work, so I just put a star on top of the subject parcel. And on page 7, we have just another view showing more of the nearby streets. And page 8 is a street view of the subject land. So if you turn to page 9, we have our property description. So the subject property is an irregularly shaped vacant land parcel located on St. Matthews Avenue near its intersection with St. James in the St. James industrial area of Winnipeg. The site size is 52,198 square feet and is zoned C3. So the subject property is also located within Area 1 of the Airport Vicinity Protection Area. Essentially, Area 1 of the ABPA restricts the type of development that can occur on the property, specifically in relation to residential development. So several developers are of the opinion that multi-residential development would suit this area due to issues like saturation of retail commercial within the area, the need for housing units within the area, and the ability to create mixed use communities by integrating new multifamily with the existing commercial that's already in place. So several properties were brought before council to have them potentially redesignated from Area 1 to Area 2, which was rejected. The subject, as noted, has no sewer, no water services, and additional site influences include hydro lines and light traffic. I would like to note the subject properties remained undeveloped as vacant land for many years, and there are currently no development plans in place for the subject property. So if you turn to page 14, we have our chart of comparable sales shown. Now, in terms of the approach for finding the comps for this subject property, it is different from other commercial development properties in that it really doesn't have a lot of development potential given the odd configuration, as well as it's on only a light traffic street. It doesn't have exposure onto a main thoroughfare. And additionally, noting the cost to put in sewer and water services. So we felt it made more sense to compare it to what we viewed as more similar land parcels that have more similar development potential. So we did compare it to M2 lots, still within same or similar neighborhoods, and trying to find as close as possible in size. I would say the subject area would be superior to comp 3, which is in Sargent Park. So that comp is kind of establishing the absolute low end of what we would consider, but really looking more toward the range established by comparables 1 and 2. So if you turn to page 15, we have index 1, which is 1530 St. James. I would say being on St. James would be a superior location than being on St. Matthews, but this is again in the same area, St. James Industrial of the comparable. So the site is also rectangular, high visibility from St. James, and it was eventually developed as a vehicle service related property. If you go to page 16, we have index 2 at 212 Soto Crescent. This property is located near its intersection with Moray Street in the Murray Industrial Park area of Winnipeg. Similar to the subject, it also experiences light traffic, and the site was noted to be developed as a multi-tenant industrial property, but I can't comment if it has been developed into that. And then index 3 at 1474 Wall, near its intersection with Richard Ave in the Sargent Park area of Winnipeg. So in proximity to the subject's neighborhood, the site is also rectangular in shape, and it is currently partially paved and used for vehicle storage. So if you turn to page 18, we have our summary listed in there. So the current assessment for the subject property is 1680 a square foot. And I would request that based on comparables with similar development potential, that a rate of no more than $12 a square foot for a revised assessment would make sense. So page 19 is the start of the appendix. So what I've included firstly, so on page 20 is just a snapshot from Google of the neighborhood view, showing the proximity of the other neighborhoods to the St. James industrial neighborhood. Page 21, I've just included an article kind of speaking to the saturation of retail, which around this area, which was mentioned under the property description. So I just wanted to include the article for context. And then starting on page 24 is just the DIMIS minutes, which again alluded to during the property description, talking about the airport vicinity protection area. So I won't go through all of that, but that kind of takes us through the remainder of the appendix. And I've just highlighted some portions from there that I've discussed in the main body of the report. So just in case the board wanted to review that afterward. That would conclude my main presentation. Then I also will have some rebuttal.
And thank you. Okay, Mr. Ducharme, if you have any questions, you can ask.
I do not have a questions, no. Thank you.
Mr. McInerney, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rebel, do you have any questions?
I'm just wondering, looking at your comparisons, your recommendation is $12 a square foot for this particular property, which is nowhere near the average or the median of your comparisons. So I'm wondering how you arrived at $12 a square foot.
Fair. It's more of a weighted approach. We're putting more weight onto comp 1 that's on St. James Street. So putting more weight there. So bringing up the requested value to something that makes more sense for the subject rather than, let's say, $7 a square foot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you can now present your rebuttal.
Okay, so page 1 of the rebuttal is speaking to comparable 1 at 765 King Edward Street. Comparable 1 was previously used as a vehicle service related property and the improvements were demolished. The property was purchased with the intent of development, and we saw that shortly after purchase in October of 2018, a variance was sought and achieved to allow for construction of a hotel. So on page 2, I've included the first page of the DIMIS minutes showing the approved variance. And then page 3 is a description, just a brief description of the proposed development there. Page 4 is speaking to comparable 2 at 800 Berry Street. So the first image shows the building that was on the site previously, and then the second image shows what the site looks like now without the building, and we see that it's just been expanded to more parking. So following the 2012 sale, the registered owner for both 800 Berry and the adjacent property at 1808 Wellington, which is the Victoria Inn, was shown as the same numbered Manitoba company. So this role no longer exists, and the property has since become part of the main role at 1808 Wellington, and it appears to be used as parking to support the main operations of the hotel. So on page 5, I've included the tax bill from 800 Berry, which is the comp. So this is the year after sale showing the change in registered owner. And then on page 6, I have the registered owner from the year of sale from that adjacent property of 1808 Wellington, showing the same registered ownership. Comparable 3. So if you turn to page 7, comparable 3 is on 1721 Portage Avenue. So we see that this one has quite a fair amount of exposure onto Portage, and it was also purchased with the intent of development. The initial building permit was granted in July of 2017, and the property is currently used as a medical office building. And finally, page 8, comparable 4 at 555 Madison. The first image is a picture of the prior building that was on the site, and the second image is showing what the site had looked like a few years after the sale. So this comp was purchased by Manitoba Hydro with the intent of establishing their new station. So the existing building on the site was demolished as part of this project. The roll number no longer exists, and a new roll has since been created. So on page 9 is a snapshot of what Manitoba Hydro, what the project looked like, what they needed it for. So we could see here that they not only did they need to be in the St. James area, but they had to be within specific areas close to their other infrastructure that was in place. And then page 10 shows the alternative sites they looked at, ultimately going with site 4, which is 555 Madison. So the purpose of showing this is just that they would have had very specific, they had specific needs for what they requested, and they're not necessarily an average market player for that property. So that would conclude my rebuttal presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp, do you have any questions of the applicant on the rebuttal?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rimble, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Ms. McIntyre?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I don't either. Thank you. That concludes all your matters. So thank you very much. You'll hear from us, and good morning. Thank you for.
Morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Take a 5-minute recess.
We can. We take a 5-minute recess now. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we can proceed with the next matter. So we can swear in the applicant on file number 223813, the property on 265 Virginia Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name. You're mute.
It's David Nishi Beckingham.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I so affirm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sharm, you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. This file number is 22-3813. The roll number is 140-320-24500. The address is 265 Aberdeen Avenue. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $246,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C2. The land area is 9,552 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the assessed value of $246,000. Now, I believe the applicant is not in disagreement with that value. Am I able to?
Mr. McGann?
Yeah, that is correct, because we this is the parking lot for the main Dollarama store. And so if the value of this parking lot is kept, we just wanted to make sure that it was taken off the main Dollarama store, because it combined comes to the total value.
Right. Yes, we're in agreement with that.
Okay, so we have accept, or you want a confirmation then, Mr. Beckingham?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's proceed then to the next matter. She is 528 St. James Street. Senior Sheriff, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chair, can I ask that we start with the next one, 1536 Portage. These are all properties related.
Okay, if there's a settlement, so we should pretty do that.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with that.
As the applicant.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's exactly the way we'd like
Okay,
it.
so then we'll go to 1536 Portage Avenue next.
Yes. So this file number is 22-3115. The roll number is 120800100. The address 1536 Portage Avenue. Roll year for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, with an assessed value of $4,628,000. The parcel use code is a restaurant. The zoning is multifamily and C2. The land area is 74,866. I just to go to the recommendation. So we have a recommendation to maintain the 2023 assessed value due to non-compliance, and to maintain that value for 2023. And I have an agreement, I believe, with the applicant for 2024 for an assessed value of $3,114,000, which would be effective, I guess, January 1st, 2024.
I'll get them up, but for just a second. So, Mr. Beckingham, you agreed that the non-compliance is forthcoming? Or
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to ask you for proof then? If
Yes.
accepted it?
On,
We don't, if the applicant's accepted it, I'm satisfied.
I'm sorry.
If the applicant's accepted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, okay. So the amount then, the recommended amount again, can you just give it to you again?
Yes, $3,114,000.
Okay, and you're agreeing with that as well, Mr. Beckingham? To
Yes,
accept
that's
that?
correct.
Okay, I think maybe you just take us through how that sum was arrived at.
Yeah, there's 1536 Portage has two restaurants, Olive Garden and Red Lobster. And it has two sort of like adjacent parking lots servicing the restaurant. So we're considering it all as sort of one economic unit. There's no income derived from these parking lots or signage on the parking lots indicate for customer parking for the restaurants. So we removed the value of the parking lots from this building 1536 Portage. So we removed the parking lots at 528 St. James and 535 Richmond Avenue on this docket, like part of 1536 Portage that we consider as one economic unit.
Okay, so, okay. Any questions, Mr. McIntyre?
So there's been no change in the cap rate or vacancy loss or any of that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, thank you. That's my only question.
Okay, and do you have any questions? Mr.
I have
McIntyre?
no questions.
And I don't either, so thank you. Okay, which one would you like to do next, Mr. Chairman?
And then the other two roll numbers based upon the recommendation for this one, we'll withdraw the other two parking lot. Those are the two parking lot appeals.
So you're withdrawing the next two items, then
Yes.
you're withdrawing then, I take it then,
528 St. James.
that's when St. James and 535 Richmond Street are both being withdrawn?
Yes, that is correct.
They have to have the form completed.
Yeah.
Yes.
They do need a form completed. So and we have a record on, I guess, tape that don't you need a form that you need Mr. Beckham to sign?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware.
Yeah, I think we're better
To this.
I think we better hear them, and then we can do a confirmation. Because Because to withdraw it, you do need the applicant to sign a form abandoning the application.
Oh, okay.
But if we hear it. It can't be withdrawn.
It won't be withdrawn then. But it can only be withdrawn. And that's the only other way we could do it is
Is it, like, the concern from the assessor's side, I'm sure, is if you hear it and make a decision, and
Yeah.
God forbid we decide to appeal that decision.
yeah, well, the other thing we can do,
Yeah.
we
won't,
simply
but-
adjourn the two
yeah.
matters. In the meantime, you can sign whatever forms you require to withdraw the claims and they will then proceed. So if that's satisfactory to both parties, we can do it that way. Just adjourn them.
Yeah, I've done it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So, and then we would get the forms.
Then you have to get it-
That need to be done.
then you have to get Mr. Macon to sign the forms and then they wouldn't then proceed after that because it would technically be withdrawn. Okay, so Mr. Becky, on that basis, you expect, I guess, forms to be transmitted to you. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. And you transmit it back by DocuSign or whatever else you do from Calgary, where I assume you are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that work for the assessor? Do you have a form you can send me, or do you want me to?
I'll send you the form, withdrawal form, Mr. Beckingham.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So that's, I'm sorry.
So-
So that would be something the secretary takes
Yeah,
care
the
of.
Board of Revision will do
I
it.
don't.
Yes, no, the Board of Revision will take care of it. Okay? Okay. Thank you. And I wasn't exactly, I don't do that myself. I do the reforms. Okay, so that completes then all matters on the docket today. So we